Hi, this is me. In this video I'm going to show you a mixing session of the song called That's How I Got to Memphis by Coltraine. This is how it sounds without any mixing.
If you love somebody enough, follow them wherever they go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
And this is how I mix this song.
If you love somebody enough, you'll go where your heart needs to go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis. I know if you've seen her, you tell me 'cause you are my friend. I gotta find her and find out what trouble she's in.
Okay, so now I'll show you how I mix this song. Okay, so this is how the kick sounds without any plugins applied. This is the EQ. Without it. With it. And this compressor. Without both of them. With them. Let's move on to the other sound of snare. Okay, so this is how the snare sounds without any plugin. Snare up. This is the EQ. Without it. With it. And this is the compressor. Without both of them. With them. Now let's move on to the snare down. This is the snare down without EQ. This is the EQ. This is the compressor. Without both of them. With them. Now both snare up and down together. Without an EQ and any other plugin. Now with the plugins. And this is my settings for the hi-hats. It sounds something like this without any plugins. After the EQ, just the EQ without it. Okay, let's now move on to the toms. Okay, this is how my toms sound without any EQ. Both of the toms are in a single track. You can hear the left and right. Both are in a single track. Now this is the EQ. Just this much. No other plugins, not even compression. This is how my overhead sounds. I have used stereo in this, not the mono. This is how the overhead sounds without any plugins. It's in stereo and now it's in mono. So I have used this stereo sound, and this is the EQ. It has removed all the snare and kick sounds. Without it. With it. Just this much. And I'll move to the room sound, room drums. This is how my room drum sounds without any EQ. This is the EQ settings. Without it. With it. And I have used just a little bit of stereo, not this much. This is absolute mono. I've used just this much. Let's move forward. Okay, so this is how I process all these drums in the drum bus. So this is how it sounds, all the drums sound without any plugins in the drum bus. This is how it sounds. And this is the first blood overdrive, which is saturation. Without it, with it. This is the settings, and I have this another saturation. Without it, with it. And then this compressor, and I have used this fruity scent to have that hard compression. This is how it sounds. Hard compression turned on. This is the hard compression sound. The hard compression sound. Without it, with it. Without it, with it. Without it, with it. And I have also added this room sound in it. Let me play the sound. Listen. Without it, this is the without it. Okay, so this is how the drum sound without the room sound adding into it. This is too much. Without it, without it, with it. I have to choose the right amount of drum rooms. Without it, this is too much. What I have selected was this much. Without it, with it. So this is how the drums are being processed in the bass sound without any plugins. This is the EQ for the bass. Without it, with it. And this is sent to this saturation bus. First the pre-box, then some compressor. Okay. First some pre-box, which is a saturation, then these two compressor. Without them, with them. Okay, so now I have this guitar pan to the left. This is how it sounds without any plugins. This is the EQ. Without it, with it. Just the EQ, and I have also sent this to a bus where this saturation and these compressors are working. This is how they are working. Let me turn this off and turn on one by one. This is the saturation, then some compression, another compression, and then I have used this fruity limiter to duck these guitar sounds and get the vocal cut through. It will not work right now because there is no vocal. So without all of them, And now this reverb. This is how I treated all of these other 3 guitars. Let's move on to these guitars. Okay, this is how this guitar sound without any plugins. This is the EQ. Without it, with the EQ. And this is the saturation. Another compressor. And one more compressor. And this fruity limiter to duck while the vocal is there. Right now we don't need it. And this reverb. Without all of these, raw guitar sound like this. Everything together. Let's move on to the other guitar. This is how this guitar sounds panned to the extreme left without any plugins. You can hear the difference without me telling you. Now I'll add saturation, compression, one more compressor which is fast. It's a fat compressor, and then this limiter. So this is how this guitar sounds with the reverb. Without all. With all. Let's move on to the other guitar. This guitar is panned to the extreme right. This is how it sounds without plugins. EQ. Without it. With it. Saturation. Compressor, another compressor, and the reverb, and both of these guitars together. Let's move on to the other instruments. Okay, this guitar is in the center. This is how it sounds. With the EQ. Saturation, compressor, one more compressor, and the reverb. Without all of them, with them. Let's move on to the background vocals. Okay, so this is my background vocal.
That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
And I have
That's how I
sent
got
this
to
to this
Memphis.
saturation.
That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
And then I have this compressor.
That's how I got to Memphis.
And I have also sent
That's
this
how
to
I
this
got to
center
Memphis. That's how I got
Without
to Memphis.
With it.
That's how I got to
and
Memphis.
this stereo widener plugin.
That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
And a little bit of reverb in the
That's
left
how I
and
got
left,
to
left and right also.
Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
Okay, so
That's
this
how I
is
got
the
to
processing of background vocals.
Memphis.
Let's
That's
move
how
on to
I
the
got to
lead vocal.
Memphis.
This is how my lead vocal sounds without any plugins.
Well, if you love somebody enough, You'll follow them wherever
EQ.
they go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
Again, equalizer.
Well, if you love somebody enough,
And this saturation.
you'll go where your heart needs to go. That's how I got to.
That's how I always saturate my vocal by splitting into two bands and then applying.
I know if you've seen her, you tell me 'cause you
And then
are
this
my friend.
Maximus to get some volume,
I
a little
gotta
bit of
find
shaping.
her and find out what
And then
trouble
comes this
she's in.
Compressor that gives me.
So if you tell
punch in
me
the
that she isn't here, I'll follow the trail of her tears. That's how I got to
and
Memphis.
then I have sent this,
That's how I got
to this vocal patcher.
Memphis.
and here I have got this room reverb, large reverb, and all these settings that I will show you.
Well, if you love
First this
somebody
room reverb,
enough, you'll follow them
then this hall
wherever
reverb,
they go. That's how I got to Memphis.
then the stereo widener.
That's how I got to Memphis.
No, just this much.
Well, if you love
this slap back
somebody
delay.
enough, you'll go where your heart needs to go.
Without
That's how
them.
I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
With all of them.
I know if you've seen her, you tell me 'cause you are my friend.
Now everything together.
I gotta find her and find out what trouble she's in.
And one more thing that I have done is that I have sent this vocal and sidechained with this bus where all the guitars are being played. What I have added this fruity limiter here, and what it is doing is that it is ducking the volume of guitar when the vocal is playing.
You'll follow them
See.
wherever they go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis.
You can see wherever the guitars and vocals are being played together, because of this fruity limiter which I have used as a compressor, and I have sidechained this with the lead vocal. It is ducking the sound of guitars when the vocal is being played, so that vocal is stays up front. I'll show you one more time.
Well, if you love somebody enough,
You can see all these places, this purple color, that the vocal is being ducked, and this is the setting that I've used.
well, if you love somebody enough, you'll follow them wherever they go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to.
You can even feel that in the sound of guitars when vocal is not being played but just the guitars. Let me show you with this example. Copy the value. Now I'll duck it even more. Now I'll show you.
That's how I got to
See?
Memphis.
See
That's how I got to.
how much of guitars is being ducked while the vocal is being played.
Follow them.
You can even hear it as well as you can see it with these graphs.
Follow them wherever they go. That's how I got to Memphis.
Volume increased.
That's how I got
Volume decreased.
to Memphis.
So this is how I treated the vocal. And in the masters, these are the settings that I've used. First, this is how it sounds without any mastering. First, the pre-box.
That's how I got to Memphis.
Then this mid-side patcher. This is my mono frequencies, and this is my stereo.
Well,
Just the mono. This is just the mono. The stereo, And
if you tell me that she
this
isn't
is my
here, I'll follow the trail of her tears.
these are my bands for the mids, for the highs and the bass. This is how I treated the lows, and this is the mids. This high.
Mad and she'd say she'd go back to Memphis someday. That's how I got to Memphis.
This is the parametric EQ
That's how I got to Memphis.
for the final.
Well, I haven't eaten a bite
And this is
or
also the,
slept in 3 or 4 nights. That's how I got to Memphis.
and this fruit is in the,
That's how I got to Memphis.
the punch that you are listening is because of this fruity clipper that I've used.
I gotta find her and find out what trouble she's
With
in.
it.
So if you tell me that she isn't here,
Without this master,
I'll follow the trail of her tears. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis. Well, she used to get mad and she'd say she'd
I hope you like the mix, and this is how I do it. Very simple, easy to learn. If you can learn from it, I think it's a good mix. You can learn from it, because I don't do the usual way people do it. My way is very simple. Sometimes I use a single saturation bus and these all plugins, and I have sent all these instruments to this single saturation bus, not even two. Others would have used 2 different buses and these compressions, but I use only one for all these 4 guitars, 5 guitars, and even the bass is into this into this saturation bus with all these 2 compressor and this one saturator. So this is my way of doing it. Only thing that matters is the final result. If the final result is good, then it doesn't matter how you do it. If you like the mix, then subscribe to the channel and also like the video. And talking about the place from where I have downloaded this file, cambridgemt.com, and the song is called That's How I Got to Memphis by Coltraine. Sounds beautiful. Listen to it one more time.
You'll follow them wherever they go. That's how I got to Memphis. That's how I got to Memphis. Well, if you love somebody enough.
Thanks for watching. This is me signing off. Keep learning, enjoy practicing. Thank you so much.